Hi, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Sarah's Chill, a company that never stops making the lives of breastfeeding parents easier. Clunky coolers, bulky bags, batteries, and cords are so yesterday. Who knew breastfeeding can get so futuristic? Well, we will hear more from our sponsor later, but you can head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and check our sponsor page. If you ever need anything, see if you can give any of them your business because they make this podcast possible. And while you're there, you can scroll down and enter your email address, and we will send these episodes straight to your inbox every week. And we are also on Patreon, and we would like to see you over there, especially for our Zoom Hangouts. I mean, it's just so much fun. We're hanging out with people, and we're talking, and we're venting, or just hanging out, or asking advice. And we also have at that Zoom Hangout tier, we also send out cards every month with stickers and like little gift fun things. You can head to the link at the top of the show notes under this episode, wherever you're listening from, and check out if there's any of the tiers that look good to you. And we are also still hosting our ongoing giveaway for people who leave reviews around the internet. Stars, written reviews, whatever it is, you can leave it. You could take a screenshot. You can send it to badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com. People are actually doing this. So don't think that you're the one who ever would. Like, people do it all the time. And we send out the goodie bags. And we like doing it. So we're trying to give you this stuff. So just send us an email. And let's see. I also want to tell you about the Milk Bank Challenge. If anybody follows the Badass Breastfeeder on social media, you may have seen me post about it. But if not, then I want to tell you that there's this kind of activity grant this company got, that if you make a donation to a milk bank, it can be a local milk bank where you just drop off your milk, or if you don't have a local milk bank, you can find one, email them, call around, and see if they will take any of if you can mail it to them. There's no minimum amount for the challenge. So whatever the milk bank says, they might have a minimum amount of milk. But and also, if you're not a regular pumper, you can just pump, see how much the minimum is for the local milk bank, and see if you can just like pump that over, a certain amount of time before the end of the year. And make that donation. And then you can go to the link. We have another link at the top of the notes. I'll put it right there, say Milk Bank Challenge. Click on that, sign up, send your verification to them, the verification that you made the donation, and they will credit your Amazon account with $250. And again, we're not making it up. It's a real thing. People are doing it. Hundreds, thousands of people have done it. So if you have milk, donate it. And this is happening because they're trying to increase milk donations, because it's literally saving babies' lives in the hospital, in, NICUs.
NICUs, yeah.
Yes, babies need this milk donation. And if you have milk coming out of your breasts, you have like a life-saving medicine coming out of you. Donate it. Save a baby. Why not save a baby today? I mean, save a baby and get $250. I mean, it's almost the holidays. Who doesn't need $250? So check that link, scroll down, it'll say Milk Bank Challenge, and you can sign up there. And I think Dianne has our review of the week.
I do. I'm a certified childbirth educator and have worked in maternal health for 5 years. I thought I had a pretty decent amount of knowledge starting out on my breastfeeding journey, but was quickly humbled when I faced a tongue tie, bottle refusal, and slow weight gain, not actually slow, biologically normal for a breastfed baby. This podcast is incredibly informative and empowering, and I now recommend it to lots of my childbirth education clients. It's a great resource. Thanks to this podcast and local support from an IBCLC, my little one and I are 6 months into our journey of exclusive breastfeeding, and I'm excited to continue learning as we go along. Thank you so much for sending that to us, and congratulations to you. It's so hard when you have a difficult start. And I work with patients all the time that like have a difficult journey in the very beginning, and they really struggle. And it's so nice to hear that you made it to the other side, and you got the support that you needed, and you're just going strong now. That's really good. Congratulations to you. And thank you for spreading the word about us. We really appreciate it, to your childbirth education clients.
Yes, absolutely. That's really cool to give people, because it's nice to have just like a podcast to listen to that has topics that might affect you. And
yeah. And it's free.
It's totally free. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I can't believe that's out there.
I know. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. And I have a couple of messages because I've started taking messages and screenshotting them and decided to just read them, because I think sometimes people have just very simple questions, and I think it's valuable to just let everybody know what those questions are, because you probably are not the only one that's had the question. If one person has it, probably like 100,000 other people have it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And this comes from the tail end of an episode that we did about those apps, the apps that track everything, and how we were talking about how that's just causes so much anxiety. So this person wrote a message and said, first off, I love your podcast. It's gotten me through some tough times breastfeeding. My little one is 8 months old and is still exclusively breastfeeding. I wanted to ask if you have any suggestions for, this is the wrong message. Let me get to that in a second. Sorry. I'm listening. This is the one I meant to read. I'm listening to a new podcast about breastfeeding apps and just wanted to chime in on why I think a lot of people are using them. Every single pediatrician that I've ever been to, including the nurses, ask me every single time we go in how often my baby is breastfeeding, how long they are feeding on each side, etc. I've never really kept track of any of these things because I just fed on demand, and for as long as he will eat, which sometimes is only 30 seconds, when I tell the nurses and the doctors that I don't know or that I just feed him whenever, they look at me like I have 5 heads, and they force me to give them an estimate. If other people's pediatricians are like these, they may be tracking everything so that they have answers to give them when they go in. And I think that's a really good point. I mean, like this still happens. They're like, so how many, how many meals a day? How many hours do you sleep at night? And it's like, dude, who is keeping like this? Who has a chart? I mean, I've had plenty of charts, but like, stop. Like, they're asking you questions that you don't know the answer to unless you use one of those apps that just causes you anxiety. And I really agree with that. I think that's people want to have exact answers. And when you go to the doctor's office, it just reinforces these exact answers.
Yeah. They have to check a box that they ask that question and how much. Yeah. Yeah. How many times the baby fed and all of that stuff. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, and so the next message was, so the 8-month-old still exclusively breastfeeding. She wanted to ask advice about daycare. My son starts solids, but still is mainly breastfeeding. But I pump while I'm at work for him. I pump while I'm away for him at work. The teachers keep telling me the bottles I am making are not enough and aren't filling him up. I pump while I'm at work, 3 ounces each session. He gets 3 bottles at daycare, 5 ounces each.
Oy.
Plenty. Do you have any suggestions? I don't think my supply has gone down since when not at work. He never seems extra hungry. Also, I know pumping doesn't get as much milk out. So this is a ton of milk. I was like, just to clarify, are you saying that he gets 3 5-ounce bottles at daycare? And she was like, yes. So this is happening to people all over the country, all over the world. Maybe not over the world, I don't know. The country, where people are sending so much milk to daycare and the daycare is giving them so much milk. And then people are like, oh my God, I'm not pumping enough milk. How do I increase my milk supply? And then it's just this like rabbit hole that you fall down. Yeah. That is a ton of milk. 3 ounces, pumping 3 ounces is amazing. That's a beautiful number to pump. 5 ounces in each bottle is too much.
It's a lot of milk.
And that's he's
getting half of his daily intake at daycare over 3 bottles.
Right. And he's not there most of the day.
Right.
Like he's not there more than half of a 24-hour day.
Right.
So that's a lot of milk. So if you have a daycare like this that's demanding more milk and you're giving, 5 ounces in a bottle, I would say 3-4 ounces in a bottle, tops.
Right.
So it's probably not you. So check the numbers and listen to that episode that we have, which we'll find, I'm sure.
I got a message from one of our listeners the other day that her doctor told her, her pediatrician told her that she should be pumping 6 to 8 ounces.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine pumping 8 ounces of milk out of your boobs? I mean, I know people do it, but holy shit. That's
not
a
necessary.
lot of milk. That is an insane amount of milk. That is
but to tell her that
supply.
Yeah, that she has a milk supply problem because she's not pumping 6 to 8 ounces of milk.
Oh my God, what? Ugh.
Yeah.
God, they're so
if anybody's
dumb.
hearing that from your pediatrician or from your doctor or from anybody, it is not true. That is too much milk.
That is way too. No, I mean, my God,
that is not our level.
You would never, ever expect to pump that much milk. Like literally, if you're pumping that much milk, you have an oversupply, and you probably want to figure out how to.
Your baby's not going to eat that much. Why would you pump that much? Crazy.
That's bad advice, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we can move on to our topic now.
All right.
Yeah. Our barriers. So we were reading
psychological barriers.
Yeah, we were reading the first part of that article last week. And then we got to the psychological barriers and I was like, this is so good. There's so much here that we could do a whole episode on it. So here we are.
Ta-da.
So barriers. I would love to know from everybody else what they think their barriers are. But we could talk about what's in this article. And this is a psychologically focused article. But mothers in the United States most often cite the following 5 considerations as reasons that they want to breastfeed. So infant health benefits, naturalness of breastfeeding, facilitating infant bonding, convenience, and mental health benefits. Conversely, the chief factors cited as reasons to formula feed or barriers to breastfeed were father's objections, fear that the baby would receive insufficient nourishment, career or job demands, physical discomfort of breastfeeding, the belief that lactation adversely affects the breast appearance.
It makes me sad that that's on the list. Yeah,
but we live in a country where boobs are so important. I mean, the way that your boobs look, like think about going into like a store where there's beautiful, beautiful art hanging on the wall or sitting on the shelf. That's what boobs are seen as. Like their most important function is how beautiful they look. So for a lot of people, it's like, this sense of self that society has given you is at risk.
I mean, if they knew that it was really pregnancy that did it,
yeah,
nobody would be having children.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the breastfeeding; it's the pregnancy.
Right.
Pregnancy has everything in the world to do with what happens to your breast. That and like DNA. If everybody, how your body's built.
Totally. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know. I whatever. I'm just one person, but like I breastfed and I don't know. They're not like that different.
No, mine aren't at all.
I'm also older. Like you can't get away from things that are going to happen to your body. Like they're going to happen.
Right.
They're going to sag. They're going to, they're going to change because you're not going to be 25 forever.
That's it. And you don't want to be 25 forever.
No.
If I could pick any age to be forever, it would not be 25. That's for sure.
Yeah, not 25. My God, no. So let's break it down. Well, I guess we're already talking about the breast one, so let's keep talking about that for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think that because breasts are so important, they're just so important to our lives and to, they've always been a part of like what makes us attractive. They're a sexual part of our body. They're, there's something that's always been a part of probably your relationship with your partner. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, just breastfeed. And, you hear all the time that breastfeeding just ruins your boobs.
Mm-hmm.
But also like, I look around the world and I don't see like, boobs all look pretty much the same.
Right.
Like, are they really like how, like, it's not like we see evidence. Yeah, we don't really see evidence, like hard evidence that like, it doesn't make them like switch sides or like turn them upside down or inside out or like, like what?
I know.
Everybody's boobs are pretty much the same. So I don't know, whatever. But yeah, especially for like a young person too, who maybe is like not to the point where they're older now and their boobs are changing and they realize that their life isn't over.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary proposition for some people.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should take a break and then we'll get to the rest of these?
Yeah, we could do that. Because there's several more, so hang in there.
There's tons more. Yeah, there's so much more to talk about. This is just really an information-packed episode. I'm going to tell you about Sarah's Chill because today's episode is brought to you by Sarah's Chill. They are that company that never stops making the lives of breastfeeding parents easier. Those clunky coolers and the bulky bags and the batteries and the cords are so yesterday. Created by a mom for moms, Sarah's Chill guarantees convenience with their double-walled stainless steel breast milk chillers. A handful of ice is all you need to keep your breast milk or formula safe for 20 hours. No more lugging around bags full of plastic and chemical freeze packs. Now you can pump and double pump all day into that sleek container. That's all you need. The chillers are made with all the best materials, food-grade stainless steel, platinum, silicone, and absolutely no lead components, because moms deserve the best. Sarah's Chill is there for you no matter where your journey takes you. Breast milk storage, formula storage, cow's milk storage for toddlers, and more. Their products are not only beautiful, they're also travel-friendly and FSA, HSA reimbursable. This is truly breast milk storage reimagined, and I still have mine. I still use it for coffee. I use it for water. I use it for, you can use it forever. It's going to last forever. Head over to sarahschill.com. That's CERESCHILL.com and check them out on Instagram at the same name. Go to sarahschill.com. Use code BADASS for 15% off your order. You can also get them custom engraved now with the picture and engraving of your choice, and it's very cool. So, yes, what else? Now we have father's objections, which is really something that like gets me, because it's also not simple. Like we think like our partner, like we're like, oh yeah, we think of like father's objections. Maybe father's objection. Maybe he's like, no, I don't think you should do that. I don't want people to see your boobs. I don't, I wasn't breastfed. I'm fine. I don't know, whatever things that people say. But also like a partner not being supportive or a partner like not being on the same page with you isn't always that blatantly clear. Mm-hmm. It could just be like a manipulative attitude or, vibe. that you get, that they're just like not on the same page as you, or just like not being outwardly supportive and like your cheerleader, can sometimes just come off as an absolute objection to what you're doing.
Right.
So I feel like that's like, the partner support is really just like it's not black and white, like it can just be like, or maybe you overheard him talking with his mom about breastfeeding and like his view on it, or like, yeah, well, we're just doing this for now, we probably won't go much longer, or like, and then you get into toddler breastfeeding, and a lot of partners are just like, no way, like, right, you can't do that, like that's gross, or that's sexual, or that's whatever.
Yeah, and it really should, like, these are discussions that you should have like prior to having a baby, making sure that you're on the same page and making sure that you're agreeing. But even then you might not agree, and it's just tricky. The whole thing is just tricky to have to maneuver around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, it is. And and there's so many conversations that you can have before you have a baby, but that once you have that baby, like, it's so abstract before you have the baby.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then once you have the baby, it's like, it's like a completely different, like, you're like different people. The conversation is so different. It's just like so different. The article says mothers who deliberate over whether to breastfeed often consider the potential effects on their personal relationships. Breastfeeding is an intimate experience shared between a mother and baby, leaving some partners feeling excluded. Some fathers report feeling that their partner's breastfeeding activities interfere with their own ability to bond with the baby. And even fathers who encourage breastfeeding sometimes acknowledge feelings of jealousy. Qualitative insights from interviews indicate that such feelings can deny fathers' inclinations to actively develop a relationship with the baby until after weaning. That irritates me, but okay.
And we also know that fathers can, or partners, not necessarily fathers, but partners can suffer from postpartum depression as well.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So if some of them really struggle with getting a new baby, having a new baby, and what the changes that happen to the family. Some partners really, really, and then they, a lot of times breastfeeding gets blamed for that.
Yes. Breastfeeding gets blamed for so much stuff. And the article even says, like, this is not exclusive to, like, man-woman relationships. Like, in relationships where two women are co-parenting, these feelings can come up related to the one person who is breastfeeding. It really, like, it's just the breastfeeding.
It is. It's just the breastfeeding. That's
being blamed.
Yeah.
So they do say that sometimes this can change if people reframe breastfeeding as a joint effort. If the non-breastfeeding parent has better education about the benefits of breastfeeding, or given ways in which they can be actively involved. Which we've done episodes, like, or I think we did an episode on this like a million years ago, like how, partners, like bonding without breastfeeding, like how the other person can be bonding with the baby, and how they can really be an active part of breastfeeding.
Yeah, we should maybe do that episode again.
Maybe we should do another one.
I mean, it's really important that partners are involved with the prenatal education piece of things, and I see this all the time. And I know I've said this on the podcast before, that when I do prenatal breastfeeding classes, a lot of times the partners aren't there. because the mother's like, oh yeah, I didn't want him to have to come to breastfeeding because, why should he need to come to breastfeeding? It is important for them to realize how important this is for your baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when partners realize that this is the best thing for their baby and the mother's going to need support, that can change a mindset.
Yeah, it is something that you're doing together.
Mm-hmm.
We know that because we know that people who are isolated, the more isolated you are, the less support you have, the less likely you are to breastfeed. So really, that partner support and being present really, really is important and will make or break, this breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it goes on to say the impact of breastfeeding on mother's sexuality can also decrease partner support for breastfeeding. Breastfeeding can diminish sexual desires in mothers and cause vaginal dryness and painful sex by lowering estrogen levels early after birth. Consistent with this early suppression of estrogen, breastfeeders report experiencing greater vaginal pain during intercourse at 3 months after giving birth, but not at 6 months. Okay. Well, so
your body needs to recover.
Yeah. And I don't know. Seriously, is that really a breastfeeding thing? Because even if you're not breastfeeding, I really feel like your body still needs to be recovering. Your body's recovering from birth.
Yeah.
And so, come on, give her a break.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, give people a break. It goes into, there's a paragraph here more about the breast appearance, which I know I'm jumping around, but whatever. A common reason for women choosing not to breastfeed is a belief that it will adversely affect breast appearance. Partners also worry about this effect, leading some to discourage their partners from breastfeeding. These concerns are not supported by empirical evidence. A study of 93 women seeking plastic surgery to improve the shape of their breasts found no significant relationship between ratings of breast drooping or sagging and breastfeeding initiation and duration. So yeah, it's not related to that.
It's not.
It does say the notion that breastfeeding makes breasts sag likely comes from the fact that pregnancy leads to changes in breast tissue. So like Dianne said, it's from breastfeeding. And anyway, the fact that a partner would say that is really annoying. Like, I feel like we can say shit about our bodies, but you better not.
No.
You better just be like, well, I don't care. I will love you no matter how your body looks.
Mm-hmm.
Stop marrying these people. I mean,
put them on an island somewhere.
Yeah, let's just put them all on an island somewhere with, yeah. They can judge each other's bodies. Okay. So let's move on to fear that the baby would receive insufficient nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is a big thing that also is a reality for some people, because some people who are breastfeeding and they're struggling maybe with transferring milk and weight gain, they're like, oh, your breast milk just isn't good enough, or your breast milk is, your breastfeeding is just not working for you, and so you should formula feed.
Or that idea that you can measure how much is going into your baby with the bottles.
Yeah.
So they choose to formula feed because you can see how much the baby is getting. That is something that you hear a lot because we are obsessed with being able to know and measure.
Yes, right.
Because we don't trust the process of our bodies being able to make milk for our babies.
We do not trust that at all.
Mm-mm.
We just, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because we do trust our bodies to do during pregnancy.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, the baby's in there cooking, little bun in the oven. We don't question it. We don't do things like, oh, what kind of supplements should I take? What kind of, we're more concerned about like, oh, I don't know if it's safe. Let's just leave the baby alone. Let the baby develop. And then as soon as the baby gets here, it's like, wow, your body can't do anything.
Right. It's really crazy.
It is.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do not even question whether or not our baby is growing. You could have horrible morning sickness, not eating a thing, and people are like, your baby's still growing. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And then you have
feel
your baby
like
and you're
dying
like,
on the floor
God.
of the shower, and you're just
I
that baby's
know.
like, that means it's a healthy baby.
Yeah. And you have that baby and people are like, your body's, you can't make enough milk. You're not eating enough. You're not drinking enough. You're not doing enough. You're doing too much. You're not making enough milk.
Because there's no way to make money off of a pregnant woman. There's no way that they've really invented yet to intervene on that. Now, we've intervened on breastfeeding so much that we know that like formula companies created so much misinformation 100 years ago that still persists to this day. And that just didn't happen with pregnancy.
Right.
And no, so, our minds are just so messed up when it comes to breastfeeding. And another thing that interferes with that is your career or your job demands. Because I know you had your baby yesterday, but you also have to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the state of maternity leave in this country is enough to make breastfeeding drop significantly at those times where people go back to work. That's upsetting. Let's see. Physical discomfort of breastfeeding. People are worried that it's going to hurt or it does hurt.
Mm-hmm. And they don't get the help that they need, or the help that they need is not available to them.
Right. They're just being told to like deal with it. Oh, it's supposed to hurt. Oh, it won't hurt
it's
after a
supposed to
while.
Hurt. Yeah. And it's not supposed to hurt. I always tell people, like, when I do my little talks at like babies and bumps and stuff like that, I'm always like, if you remember nothing else from today, remember that breastfeeding is not supposed to be painful. And if people tell you that it is, they're wrong. It is not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having pain, that means we need to find out why you're having pain and we need to fix it, which it can be fixed. Yes. But unfortunately, lactation is not free in this country. And barriers to getting the right help are a very real thing.
Yeah. So the article goes on to talk about societal pressures as well, like breastfeeding in public, people worrying about that, women feeling awkward or embarrassed about breastfeeding in public, feeling vulnerable and prone to negative feedback. They confront ongoing pressure to use formula in public and lack the confidence in their decision to breastfeed and feel ashamed to breastfeed in the company of others. And there is no denying this pressure from formula companies to switch to formula.
Mm-hmm.
That's real. I mean, the formula marketing, we did that episode with the Radical Moms Union about how targeted and aggressive formula marketing is towards new parents and just spreading bad information around to try to do nothing except try to get you to quit breastfeeding and buy their product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's evil. Let's see. Much of the taboo surrounding breastfeeding in public appears related to assumptions that bare breasts are sexually evocative or indecent. The sight of a breastfeeding mother is regarded as obscene in societies where the breast is primarily regarded as sexual.
We've said on this podcast several times, breasts are not sexual organs. And we might think that they are because of how sexualized they are, but they are not sexual organs.
Yes. The extent to which breastfeeding is socially taboo, tolerated, or encouraged varies not only geographically, but also by ethnicity. Immigrants from societies in which breastfeeding is the norm demonstrate higher breastfeeding rates than the native population. Thus, Black immigrants from West Indian societies where breastfeeding is typical are more likely to express the intention to breastfeed exclusively than African American women. The influence of prior culture on immigrant mothers appears to diminish with time. Length of residence in the U.S. was negatively correlated with initiation of breastfeeding in Puerto Rican mothers. Wow. So, yeah. Societies also substantially vary in attitudes regarding the normal age of weaning. And mothers who transgress these expectations can suffer negative social consequences. For example, many mothers in Western countries who breastfeed longer than the first few months of the child's life report adverse social feedback. As we know, people are like, why are you still breastfeeding? Your baby's like 3 months old. Oh my God, they're so old.
I remember when my first one was 6 months old, my mother was like, okay, that's enough. 6 months old. That's enough now.
Yeah, that's what my mom's doctor said to her at 3 months with me. Yeah. He was like, yeah, you can wean now. And then my mom goes, you just didn't want to stop. You were just so difficult. I was like, really, Mom?
Oh my God.
I was even a pain in the ass when I was 3 months old and she was trying to take the breast away.
How dare you?
I know. Yeah. Well, I think we linked the this article last week. We can link it again. You can go. It goes on and on. There's mental health barriers. Overwhelming evidence that women with depression and pregnancy or in the first few weeks postpartum are less likely to initiate breastfeeding or breastfeed for shorter periods of time. As we know, yes, of course. And then it says, finally, many antidepressants and psychiatric medications are not recommended for breastfeeding mothers, prompting some women with depression or other serious mental illnesses to choose to formula feed to enable them to receive medical treatment, which is unfortunate because that is a big pile of misinformation.
Yes, many, many, many medications are totally fine. It's especially if we're talking like, SSRIs, antidepressants, many of them are just fine.
Yes.
If you needed to take something really heavy duty because of a psychological issue, something like lithium, that might be a different story. But if you are just needing something for depression and anxiety, it's safe to take. Most doctors will, and they know that. Most doctors will be able to prescribe you something that is safe for breastfeeding. So don't automatically think that you can't get help, because you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any questions on that, just let us know. There's also the infant risk resource that talks about the different medications. And yeah. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Check out the article.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.